Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is Kurumani Kara. Today we are back with another reaction video to chat histories, scary historical events that actually happened. Ooh, this is a new channel we're reacting to today, so I have no expectations. I'm just hoping it's gonna be a fun time. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Any interaction with this channel does me wonders, and I appreciate every little bit of it. Now let's get into it.
Spooky history stories.
Ooh. Can't
if you're
save
well-versed
everyone.
in American history, then you know the story of formerly alive President Abraham Lincoln's big night out on the
Formerly
town in
alive,
1865.
okay.
Even if you're familiar with the historical artwork around the matter, you might ask yourself, who the heck are these other people? You know Lincoln, sure, and of course...
Isn't one of the other ones his wife? Right? And it's like a military person, right? And his wife?
Of course, the guy using Lincoln's skull as target practice is John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah.
But also accompanying the president that night were his wife, Mary,
Yeah, that's right.
close friend and Union Army Major Henry R. Rathbone, and his fiancée, Clara Harris. Lincoln and the gang were out celebrating the recent victory of the American Civil War and were seated in a private viewing box to the right of the stage in Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. What do you think of the play, dear? Just then, Confederate Sir Luther John Wilkes Booth entered the booth and took aim, blasting the president point blank in the head with a .44 caliber lead ball from a single shot derrick.
That's so not funny. I shouldn't be laughing, but
Pistol. At the sound of the gunshot, Rathbone spun around to see Lincoln collapse in his chair with Booth standing in a cloud of smoke. He immediately leapt from his seat and charged the assassin, but Booth came well prepared. In the struggle, Booth was able to equip a dagger and severely slash Rathbone's arm before leaping from the box onto the stage. Right before jumping, Rathbone was able to grab Booth's coat, causing Booth to lose his balance and eat shit, fudging up his leg in the process. Despite being in a packed theater of witnesses and bystanders, Booth evaded capture for 12 days.
What?
However, his plan was successful as President Lincoln died from his injuries just 9 hours after the fatal game of tag.
See, I never knew the follow-up history to it. 12 fucking days? How do you evade getting captured for 12 days and you killed the president? Damn.
Rathbone, who passed out due to blood loss but eventually recovered from his injuries, personally placed the weight of the president's death on his shoulders. He believed he should have been able to prevent the assassination, and because of this, he bore immeasurable guilt every day of his life.
I mean, it's survivor's guilt, right? If you're in a situation like that, it's kind of hard not to blame yourself. And back then, there weren't really that many psychiatrists, right? I guess they couldn't really help him.
Absolutely destroying his mental well-being to the point of insanity. After resigning from the military 5 years later, he struggled to find work until eventually given a consul position in Germany by President Arthur. Rathbone's now wife Clara had hoped that the change of scenery would do him some good.
It did not. Aww.
Rathbone's mental health continued to spiral, resulting in him lashing out at his young children and violently threatening Clara. After 13 years of mental deterioration, the breaking point had finally been reached. On December 23, 1883, Rathbone attacked his children in a fit of madness in their home.
Oh my
Clara had rushed to
God.
protect her children, but was fatally shot and stabbed by her husband.
What?
Instead of continuing his onslaught, he turned the knife on himself,
Oh no.
stabbing himself in the chest
Shit.
5 times. Despite the failed seppuku attempt,
my God.
Rathbone survived his wounds,
What?
with police finding him covered in blood, claiming that there were people hidden in the walls of his home whispering to him. He was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife. During trial, he was officially declared insane by court doctors and committed to an asylum where he died 28 years later.
He lived 28 years in an asylum. That is crazy. I'm surprised they never teach us this in history. Damn. Well, maybe they do, depending on what school you go to. I know in college they didn't teach this in history. And he went into a lot of detail when he went on. Well, I guess he's just a side character, huh? And when you're a side character, I guess your history kind of gets swept under the rug. Maybe that's it.
Henry Howard Holmes was an American con artist and the U.S.'s first documented serial killer. Born the lesser cool named Herman Mudgett, Holmes attended the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery in 1882, where he allegedly would accompany his professor in various grave robbing activities as a way to supply the school with fresh bodies for examination and dissection. It was here that Holmes developed a slight obsession with death, and seldom does such an obsession lead to good things. After graduating medical school in 1884 and being upgraded to Dr. H.H. Holmes, he moved out to Chicago to work in a drugstore.
Oh no, not Chicago.
From the owner.
What is drugs?
Proceeds from that store helped to fund his newfound hobby that would soon evolve into something much more sinister. Holmes drew up plans for a hotel, one designed to be a death trap for all who entered.
Oh
Not
my
the best business
god,
model for return
psychotic.
customers, but hey. Several contractors and architects were put on the job with a steady rotation of firing and hiring. Now, it's believed that this constant turnover kept everyone from knowing his true design intentions, with no one designer knowing the full scale of the operation at any given time. When it was fully built, the hotel had 3 floors, with
That
the
looks
first
very
one being
familiar,
mainly
too.
retail and including a new drugstore. Holmes used the hotel to accommodate travelers during the upcoming Chicago World's Fair in 1893, which attracted millions of people to the area. Now, according to legend, the hotel contained secret rooms, trick hallways, and trapdoors and torture chambers throughout. It was in this hotel that Holmes would allegedly trap and torture his victims, eventually selling their bodies to the local medical school as a way to satisfy his macabre desires while still making bank. During the World's Fair, Holmes would charisma check dozens of wealthy women to spend the night in the hotel for rest and
Charisma
relaxation.
check. Oh my god.
They would never be seen again. It is
Oh my
believed that as many
God.
as 50 women went missing during the World's Fair,
Shit.
all linked to what Holmes would later call his murder castle. In August of the same year, the 3rd floor of the hotel caught fire. While no one was injured, the fire destroyed most of the 3rd floor, but Holmes had an ace up his sleeve: multiple insurance policies. But, like insurance companies do, they refused to pay out and accused Holmes of setting the fire himself and engaging in insurance fraud. Holmes, obviously angered by such accusations, quickly skedaddled out of Chicago. And over the following years, he continued to dabble in insurance fraud with his friend Benjamin Peitzel. For his next trick,
Peitzel.
Holmes had suffocated Peitzel with chloroform and burned his unconscious body
Oh my
for a
god.
life insurance payout. What's even worse is that through extreme coercion and manipulation, Holmes had convinced Peitzel's widowed wife to place 3 of her 5 children into his custody. And over
What?
the years, he would murder all 3. Holmes had forced the 2
Oh my
older
God.
children, 13-year-old Alice and 9-year-old Nellie, into a trunk, drilled a hole through it, and plugged it with a gas line, suffocating them. He then buried their bodies in a cellar in his house. As for the 3rd child, 7-year-old Howard, Holmes drugged the boy, dismembered, and burned his body, with only some teeth and bones being the identifying factors. Eventually, the children's remains were discovered, leading to
The
Holmes' arrest and
psychopath.
subsequent conviction of the Peitzel murders. He was sentenced to death and hanged in
Good.
1886, but not before confessing to over 200 murders thanks to his murder castle. But Holmes was regarded as a habitual liar, and experts believe that there was only enough evidence to link him to 9 murders. Still a high count, but not nearly the 200.
That's still way
Holmes
too
claimed.
much.
As for the murder castle,
One
it
is too much.
confirmed that the stories about the design and the use of the building were widely sensationalized and over-exaggerated by local media. Sucks from
Fake
a horror
news.
standpoint,
Aw.
but still makes a good story nonetheless, right?
Is it still around?
Take a look at this face.
I'm curious if that building's still around. Because if it's still around, I want to go visit it. Just pure fascination. I would love to go visit it. Let's go back.
But still makes a good story nonetheless, right? Take a look at this face. Seem familiar at all? If not, then you're useless to me if I start joking. Anyway, this is a plaster casting of the face of an unidentified woman who was pulled from the river Seine in Paris in the late 1880s. She became known as L'Inconnue de la Seine, or the unknown woman of the Seine. After being fished out of the French River, her body was placed in the Paris morgue, which, at the time, put nameless corpses on full display for the sake of identification
Oh my
by the general
God,
public
really?
who happened to be passing by. Oh hey kids, look, it's Grandma!
Oh.
Because of this strange but effective method, the morgue became a popular tourist and public gathering spot.
Oh my
often
God, that
referred
is
to as
so-
the only free theater in Paris. This particular woman, however, was a bit of an oddity. Medical examination showed no visible wounds or signs of a struggle, so it was concluded that her death was self-inflicted, with her age being estimated at just 16 years old. But it was her calm, serene expression that caught the attention of
16 years old? Why are you calling her a woman? She's a child. Wouldn't she be considered a...
of a pathologist at the morgue. Since he couldn't take a picture to make it last longer, he decided to instead cast a plaster death mask of her face as a way to immortalize her. Creepily enough, but also to no surprise, many Parisians thought that having a face of a dead woman in their house to be the coolest thing since sliced baguette.
What?
So countless copies of the death mask were made. From an artistic standpoint, many interpretations claim that the young woman's demeanor expresses a calm control over death, being accepting of its inevitability.
That is so grotesque. Why would you want like a cast of a random dead person? Oh my god. I feel like that's highly disrespectful too, isn't it? Oh.
Rather than fear. From a non-artistic viewpoint, you have some dead girl's face hanging on your wall. Over the years, her face had inspired several literary works, pieces of art, and even fashion. But where have you seen her face before? Well, believe it or not, chances are you've actually unknowingly given her mouth to mouth. Because hers is the face of the CPR training doll, which is used in almost all CPR training courses worldwide since 1960. Sure, that might be creepy, but at least it's thematically appropriate. World War I was absolutely brutal. It was the forefront of many new innovations
what is that?
like tanks, heavy machine guns, and manned aircraft.
Dead by Dawn,
all effective
whatever.
technologies developed for the sake of boosting your own kill count. But another, more sinister tactic was soon deployed on
Dead
the
by
battlefield:
Daylight, not Dead by
chemical
Dawn.
weapons. Perhaps the most widely used was mustard gas, but others were used too. For instance, chlorine gas, a yellow-green gas which, sure enough, looks like a stereotypical funny fart cloud, but packs a lethal punch. This story begins in September of 1914, where German soldiers were tasked with taking the Russian-occupied Auschwitz fortress. It was constructed as a Russian Empire border defensive structure against German attack. And boy, was it good at its job. German Empire units had repeatedly tried to penetrate the fortress, but were told no through heavy retaliatory gunfire and artillery. Despite facing multiple defeats,
Let me jump.
soldiers refused to give up so easily. 3 assaults were conducted on the fortress over the course of a year. The first saw German infantry losses of about 6,000, while Russian forces only suffered 139.
This cough needs to go away.
The second assault saw a continued bombardment on the fortress by German artillery, but the Russian soldiers didn't budge. This caused several month-long standoffs, which eventually resulted in German retreat. However, the third assault was to be the one to huff and puff and blow the fortress down. Returning to the fortress in August of 1915, the German forces now had fresh soldiers, even heavier artillery, and multiple canisters of chlorine gas. On the defensive side, the Russian line was only 900 strong, but they still took their chances against the impossible odds. After waiting several hours for favorable wind conditions, German soldiers bombarded the fortress with the deadly gas to flush out the enemy. The Russian soldiers, unfortunately, had no suitable protection against the gas and had to improvise, covering their faces with the best thing that they could come up with: rags soaked in piss. To no surprise, this proved ineffective. The soldiers were severely incapacitated by the gas, and now they smelled like piss. As a quick science lesson, when chlorine gas is inhaled, it reacts with the residual moisture in your body, forming hydrochloric acid, which starts to corrode your internal organs. In short, causes big ouchies on the inside. With this mechanism of action being well known, the Germans were certain of their victory and began to infiltrate the fortress, but were met with a horrific sight. Despite suffering in complete agony, covered in blisters and coughing with lungs and blood, the Russian soldiers still stood their ground and continued fighting. The German troops, of course, shied their hosen at the sight of the seemingly undead Russians and fled from the fortress.
Too much for me, man.
Stumbling into barbed wire in the process. The rest of the German troops immediately hightailed it out of there. Although successful,
wait.
German troops.
Look it. There's our guy right there. Salmonella, right? Oh my god. Do they know each other? Oh, wait. I'm getting too distracted. Let's keep going.
Immediately hightailed it out of there. Although successful, most of the Russian defense died from the gas.
Oh my god.
Those who did survive barely got by the skin of their whatever they had left. Sadly, Russian troops preemptively demolished most of the fortress as Germans began closing in for a 4th time later that month.
That story I actually heard. I remember actually learning that one in school. So, one. One out of how many did I know? Yeah, one out of like 6. Yeah. Yeah.
Just as a quick warning, I'm going to be showing some graphic.
Oh no! Don't.
So if you don't want to see that, click away now. There you go. Usually when you hear the phrase Italian Renaissance, you think of high-class society.
Oh no, they are going to show
revolutionary innovation, and
photos.
lots of statues of dudes with their dicks out. Well, allow me to throw a wrench in that perception by introducing you to the concept
gonna blur
of
'em out.
syphilis zombies. Syphilis? Like the guy with the boulder? No. Silly. Syphilis. Like the STD. Quick backstory. In 1494, the King of Naples, Ferdinand I, died of butthole cancer. If his name sounds familiar, it's because he's one of those evil kings that I covered in a previous video, so you can check that out if you haven't. Wink. Anyway, Ferdy's son Alfonso II took his daddy's throne, but was quickly put in a state of check by French King Guy Charles VIII, who claimed that he had claim to the throne because of his noble Angevin bloodline. Or so he claimed. Little Alfonso was like, well, how about you just take Milan instead? Your lawn? No, Milan. Why would I want Milan? I hate mowing. Are you serious right now? After some clarification, King Charles agreed, and with 30-some thousand soldiers, invaded Italy, took over Milan, but felt unsatisfied. Oh, sweet. Charles took Milan. Oh, he's heading this way too. Why is he heading this way? Naples was also taken. With such a successful campaign through the peninsula, the French army, which consisted of Spanish, Swiss, Flemish, and even Italian soldiers, decided to celebrate. And you bet your sweet balls that meant women and alcohol were involved in medically inadvisable quantities. When you have a bunch of people from all over Europe quite literally come together in one city, there's going to be some interesting results.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
It was kind of like a super syphilis, as historians generally agree that the strain that went around was much more severe than its modern cousin.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
The rhetorical we have.
Oh my god.
This meant that
no. Okay.
Ulcers,
We're
small
skipping
open
it.
wounds forming around your tender meat
We're
log.
skipping the
But
picture.
that worry is quickly put
Skipping
to
the
rest. You
picture.
develop a bad fever, multiple rashes, and muscle pain. Get used to that because you're going to be like that for a few months. As you continue to live your now much more miserable life, you discover the formation of big, stinky, painful sores and abscesses across your body. These sores start to penetrate deeper and deeper into your tissue until your flesh quite literally rots to the bone. The bacteria eats away at your skin, your eyes, your nose, and your lips. You don't die just yet, but you wish you would.
Oh my god.
For months or even years, piece by piece, you fall apart.
No.
With chunks of your body just sliding right off. Got your nose. Thousands of people were walking around like this.
Oh my god, these are not real.
Eventually, the soldiers were expelled from Italy and returned to their respective homes. Within a few years,
and then it
syphilis
spread like
ran rampant
fucking
through most of
shit.
Europe, and by 1520, the so-called French disease infected Africa and Asia as well. So remember, fellas and fellettes, never engage in sexual relations with a 15th century French soldier in Naples. That subscribe.
That last one was disgusting. Ugh. Like, I could have went my whole life without knowing that story. I really like this video. I think I'm gonna follow him, maybe react to some more of his videos because this was interesting. I really enjoyed it. Last one scared the shit out of me, but you know, it's not like he didn't say it in the title that it's gonna be scary, so learned my lesson. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys again later. Bye.